Hi guys, in today's video we're going to be continuing on with the console. We're going to briefly touch upon what a REPL is, and we're going to run some JavaScript within the console that interacts with the DOM. And also we're going to use the console as a exploratory playground where we can test a whole host of JavaScript language features. So with that said, let's move on. I'm going to go over to the Google homepage. And we're going to first bring up DevTools. So I'm going to right click and click inspect. This will bring up DevTools. And for this tutorial, we're going to be working in the console either here, or if you prefer, you can work in the console up there. If you want to work down here, make sure that you hit escape to toggle the console on and off, and then we can begin. Right, so for the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to be using DevTools as a sort of makeshift IDE. So by that, I mean we're going to be editing the HTML directly. So I'm going to right click on this body element. I'm going to select Edit as HTML, and I'm just going to drag everything inside the body and delete it all, just to make things a little bit clearer for this demonstration. So I'm going to delete that, but as you'll see, nothing's happened. To update, we just click anywhere outside of that box, and there you have your empty HTML page. So I'm just going to go back in, edit as HTML, and I'm going to add a input element. So I'm going to say input, input, and I'm going to put some placeholder text in there, and I'm just going to say search me, and then we're done. Click outside there, and just to make it a little bit more visible, I'm just going to Control plus and increase the size of that. Now, to continue with the IDE theme and using DevTools as a makeshift IDE, I'm just going to use various ways to interact with the DOM tree. I'm going to use the mouse and keyboard. I'm going to use the console using JavaScript. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an attribute. That attribute's going to be an ID equals, and we'll say, I don't know, we'll say my input. Okay, and then select enter, and we have a ID equals my input. Now, let's say we want to query using JavaScript for this input, or for this particular input with the ID my input. What we can do is say document.query selector, and then we can put in my input as the ID. But before we do that, we might want to use the correct syntax, which is my input, case sensitive. You'll have to bear with me. This is a brand new mechanical keyboard, and I'm still getting to grips with the nuances of it. So what we've done is we've queried for a selector with the ID of my input, and as I press enter, you can see we do in fact get returned that particular input node, which is highlighted within the web page. Also, an additional way to do this is to select it, right click, copy JavaScript, go back into the console and press Ctrl V, and that is a much quicker way. Two options there to choose from. Now we have a reference to that. It's only temporarily stored in the clipboard. We're not actually storing it in any variable, so let's do that. Let my new element equal, I'll Ctrl V that, and then we get my new element, and we can see we do actually in fact have it stored within the variable my new element. So now we can manipulate that element in various ways. So I can say my new element dot style equals, and we're going to put in a background hyphen color colon red for danger, and we're going to click enter, and as you can see, things are nicely updated in real time. So as I mentioned in the introduction, I was going to discuss REPL and what is a REPL. So when we're in the console environment, a REPL stands for read, evaluate, print and loop. So the console reads something, reads an expression, it then evaluates that expression, prints that expression to the terminal, and then it loops infinitely. So it's always waiting for user input. And to illustrate this, I'm just going to use some basic JavaScript. So it's going to read our expression, which is 1 + 2. And when I press enter, it's going to evaluate, and then it's going to print that evaluated expression to the screen, and it's going to loop over infinitely, waiting for further user input. So that's just basically what a REPL stands for: read, evaluate, print and loop. And it harkens back to a bygone era of Lisp programming, where Lisp used those function names to do various programming activities. And to illustrate that, the DevTools Console is in actual fact a real JavaScript interpreted environment. We can perform various JavaScript language constructs. So let's create a function, and we'll call it my function, and we'll just console.log hi there. Enter. And if we do a type of my function, we do in actual fact get a function. And if we call that function my function, we do actually get the value hi there printed to the terminal or to the console. And similarly, let's create a fat arrow syntax function. So we'll have const my fat function. I do hope that this function doesn't get too self-conscious, and we'll just get the syntax right. And we'll console.log hi there, I am a fat arrow function, pleased to meet you, exclamation mark. And we'll close that off and click enter, and we will call my fat arrow function, excuse me, and there we go. So I've just cleared the console, and to demonstrate a bit of asynchronous JavaScript along with a web API, I'm going to call set timeout, and I'm going to use fat arrow syntax again. I'm going to call my fat function, and I'm going to, call that after 3 seconds, and we should see a message displayed after 3 seconds. And there you go. So you can do a lot of things in JavaScript. You can use web APIs, you can use REST APIs, you can use pretty much most, if not all, the JavaScript features that are present in ECMAScript. And it's just a great opportunity to experiment with features you feel uncomfortable with. And just, it's good to get a little bit of insight into what's going on with the language. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you'd like to take your web development and computer science skills to the next level, then please consider subscribing to the channel if you're new. Smash that like button and place a comment down below for what you'd like to see in the future. Over and out.